B-Lab stands for Breakthrough Lab. It's an opportunity for students to advance ventures of their own creation.
B-Lab kind of instills in you to actually think, what is the business? What are you actually trying to sell?
Where do we begin? How do we get this out? We have this idea, where do we go with it?
And so Brown has put together this, I think, innovative and fantastic program to allow students to work on those ventures in that fashion.
I'm gonna grease the pan so it doesn't.
Che is the name of the venture, and Che is a food company which focuses on the healthy snack sector.
I heard from a friend on campus about B-Lab, and it seemed like the perfect place to kind of expand on the idea and the perfect way to spend the summer in order to cultivate what we wanted to accomplish with Che.
Because of B-Lab, we're beginning to think like business people and like founders of a company.
The name of our venture, Akeso, is the name of a Greek deity. She's basically the goddess of the process of healing.
So in the physical therapy industry, there's a disconnect. So once you're in the clinic, you do exercises. When you're out of the clinic, you should still be doing exercises. But life gets in the way. Lack of communication is something that we're trying to delve into, something that we want to research more and try to solve.
So that's why we're focusing a lot on HEPs, which is the home exercise program.
And I think B-Lab has been a great resource for us to focus our tumble of ideas.
I've never really taken a formal entrepreneurial class or business class, but I've always been really interested in addressing health equity and kind of understanding health disparities from a research side. So it was really a great thing for me to be able to actually work on a project and a business that tries to create a product that is really healthy for you.
Also, it's actually taught me to be a better student too, because these things we're learning a lot in B-Lab, but the greatest thing is that we get the opportunity to actually put what we learn into practice.
It's being able to actually apply the education that I've been taught throughout Brown. So being able to work on a startup in B-Lab has been really integral to my Brown experience as a whole.
We access the broader business and entrepreneurial community and actually a lot of Brown alums with a focus on striving to find people with sector expertise.
We're meeting with people talking to us and telling us this is how it feels like starting up a company, so get ready, it's going to get rough, it's going to get tough. So actually having these discussions with our mentors is actually quite helpful.
It's a thought process, it's a way of approaching problems, it's a way of solving problems. And so at Brown, I think it's vital really, teaching and learning and allowing students to experience entrepreneurship.
I look at these programs, I feel like it's an investment into us as students that we hope to invest back into the lives of other people. So it's like a gift that keeps on giving, constantly. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be kicking this off. We've just had a little bit of a delay, but thank you. Welcome to the Brown University Breakthrough Lab Venture Showcase for 2018. My name is Jason Harry. I'm a professor of the practice in the School of Engineering, and it's my great honor and pleasure to also be the director of the Breakthrough Lab, which is a summer venture accelerator for our students. I want to tell you just a little bit about the Breakthrough Lab to give you a sense of what it's about and also what I think it means for the university and why we're so excited about it. Breakthrough Lab is an opportunity for students to work heads down during the summer on ventures of their creation. This is not an internship program for students to work on faculty projects or outside business projects. These are ventures of their own creation and of their own passion. They come into B-Lab for the summer. They work for 8 weeks. They are able to work full-time on their projects because they are given a scholarly stipend, so they're not having to work elsewhere while they pursue their ventures. We have a very selective process to determine which ventures come in to B-Lab, and we start in June and go through July, and we really work the students really hard. We're here to celebrate those cohorts and these entrepreneurs, but honestly, for an an event of this size, and we have people in this room, we have an overflow room next door, we're live streaming around the world. There are alumni, parents of the students who are tuning in via the internet, and people who are interested everywhere are watching the event tonight. I hope they stayed with us while we got a little bit of a delayed start. But I think there's a reason beyond just watching a dozen student pitches that generates this level of enthusiasm. And I think that's because people like to glimpse the future. And people, I think, equate ventures, student ventures perhaps especially, as a sort of a telescope into the future. These students and their ventures sort of bring the future closer to us. And that's what I think an event like this really helps to communicate. So I'd like to welcome you to the future. The story with B-Lab is that we try to have it be a high-velocity professional experience. That 8 weeks is an opportunity for them to be in the wild. We say they're going to be in the wild. They're out working with customers. They're developing a full-up business plan and a presentation. We also like it to be a professional experience. We hold them to professional standards of communication, how they comport themselves with partners and adults and mentors. So that's another really important thing. The third thing about B-Lab that's really important is that we, as a university accelerator, take seriously the educational mission that runs alongside venture acceleration. B-Lab is not just about, although it is significantly about, trying to help ventures make progress. But as a university, we also hold dear our responsibility to help students to advance themselves professionally and intellectually. And so we see dramatic progress on both fronts, and we champion both fronts. We see a lot of business progress on the ventures, but just as importantly, the individuals who are in the cohort develop dramatically over that 8-week period in how they present, how they communicate, and how they work together as teams. So it's a great time to be in entrepreneurship at Brown University. That's largely through the leadership of President Paxson, who you're going to hear from in just a moment. Also, Provost Richard Locke, also an entrepreneur in his own right. These folks are the ones who are leading the development of the entrepreneurship program here at Brown. It's enabled by generous donors, whom the president will speak about in a moment. And we think that B-Lab, as a program of the Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship, is one of the premier programs in the series of possibilities in the Nelson Center. So, with no further ado, President Paxson, would you like to join us? Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, it's great to see everybody here. And I'm getting to the right slides. There we go. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here. And this is the 4th year that we're having the B-Lab. I remember the first year. And what's been really amazing is to see B-Lab grow, get better, more professional, and the students just taking off as we go through the program. I want to start just by acknowledging a couple guests. And I have to say, there's so many people who make B-Lab work well. I want to acknowledge Chris Brown, class of '89. Where's Chris? He's somewhere out there. There he is, right back there. He is on the Nelson Center Advisory Council, and I also want to welcome Jonathan Speed, class of '84. Jonathan's right up here, and he is a trustee emeritus and an entrepreneur from the West Coast, and it's great to have him here tonight. I want to thank the Nelson Center staff and the B-Lab staff for organizing this really terrific showcase. So let me start by saying just a little bit about the Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship. This was established with a substantial gift from Jonathan Nelson, and the center, just in a short period of time, has taken off. I hope when all of you walked in to this room, you saw the big poster that shows the new building that's going up on Thayer Street. And that's really exciting, because for the first time, we're going to have, great space for our student entrepreneurs, for teaching them, for the alumni mentors and others who come back, and all of the great programming that the Nelson Center does. So that's just amazing. Let me say a few words about the genesis of the Nelson Center. And I want to say something that I think is really important. The Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship was not the beginning of entrepreneurship at Brown. It wasn't. Brown has for a long time had an incredibly entrepreneurial ecosystem. And I think that ecosystem stems from the open curriculum and the types of students, the creative, imaginative, entrepreneurial students who are attracted to Brown because of the way that we think about teaching and learning and education and what people should do in their lives. And so when I look at our alumni community who graduated long before the Nelson Center started, they're doing extraordinary things. And I think a lot of them are very excited to be working with the current students here now and helping them hone their skills as future entrepreneurs. So you might ask, why do we need the Nelson Center? Well, what the Nelson Center is doing is it's taking this amazing entrepreneurial ecosystem and it's putting it on steroids and bringing it together with the coherence, with a visibility, and with a level of professionalism that we haven't had in the past. So I'm very excited with everything that we're doing, and I think this Nelson Center, it just embodies the spirit of open, independent inquiry that Brown has encouraged for many years and will continue to encourage going into the future. So second point that I want to make. One of the things I love about the entrepreneurship program at Brown, the Nelson Center, is seeing how it has become really closely aligned and embedded with the academic goals that we have at Brown as laid out in our strategic plan, building on distinction. What I've seen in a very short time is that the Nelson Center has become a connector within the university. And no matter what we're doing, it's saying, okay, that's a great area of research, great area of education. How can that be part of what we're doing here at Nelson? And just let me give you 3 quick examples. One of our themes in Building on Distinction, the strategic plan, is sustaining life on Earth. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges that we face these days. And the Nelson Center works with the Program for Environmental and Civic Engagement. And what it's doing is it's offering early stage venture grants for students who are interested in entrepreneurial solutions to environmental problems. So how did this program come to be? Well, it's a confluence of interests coming together. We have an interested faculty member, Stephen Porter, who many of you may know. We have donor funding for venture grants and stipends, and we have the Nelson Center, and we also have the Institute at Brown for Environment and Society, which is also a new unit here at Brown just in the past several years. So that's a way that the Nelson Center is connecting into one of the most important challenges of our time and doing so in consultation and connection with people who are doing environmental work here at the university. Second example, another plank of the strategic plan is improving population health. Again, so many global health challenges out there, they desperately need solutions. And Daniel DiCicchio, class of 14, he was in the first ever B-Lab cohort in 2015. And he founded Vitae Industries when he left Brown. So what does this startup do? What it does is it takes innovative technology and it applies it to the task of how pharmacies prepare individualized doses of medications through auto-compounding. Okay? You might say, why do we need that? If you study population health, what you know is that pharmacies often get it wrong. They give people incorrect amounts of medications. And what this company does is it aims to improve the current systems, and by doing so, improve the health of all the people who benefit from this service. Recently, this company raised $1.8 million from the Slater Tech Fund in Providence, so it's doing well. Let me give you one more example. Another plank in Building on Distinction is using science and technology to improve lives. And for this example, I'm going to talk about one of the presentations that you're going to hear tonight. So I won't say that much about it because the students are going to do a better job than I do. But we have 4 students who you're going to hear from, and they co-founded a company called, or a venture called Formally. And what this is it's a form filler software application that guides displaced people through applications for asylum, visas, and citizenship. And the framing that they have is quite wonderful. And I quote, "We believe in breaking bureaucratic barriers to make our world more accessible." And when you think about pressing social problems and using technology to address them, this is just a great example of that. Let me make one more comment before I close and we turn to our next speaker. It's been wonderful to see how the Nelson Center is building community, and it's building community in several different dimensions. One dimension is with our alumni community. 95% of Nelson Center events feature alumni speakers. So bridging current students with former students or alumni who are going to then go on to become connections throughout people's lives and throughout their careers. That's really amazing. The second is building connections between Brown and the Providence community. So I think the current students here know, and some of the alumni in the audience may know, that we're doing a lot of investment in the 195 district of Providence, the jewelry district area of Providence. And one of the other buildings that's going up is the Wexford Innovation Center that will open later this year. And that's housing a number of Brown program, the School of Professional Studies. Johnson & Johnson's Innovation Center will be going in there. But we'll also have the Cambridge Innovation Center opening a shop right here in Providence, which will support later stage ventures, more mature ventures. So my hope is that someday we'll have B-Lab groups going on to CIC and then launching businesses from there. So just to close, this is a fast-growing area at Brown. We're building on success. We're building on distinction. The energy being created by the Nelson Center is amazing, and I know that I am really looking forward to hearing the B-Lab students present their work tonight and pitching their game-changing ventures. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think it's fair to say that B-Lab could, in a way, be called Mentor Lab. One of the things that we think distinguishes B-Lab is that we work really hard to bring what we call sector-specific expertise to help the ventures who are in the cohort. And that entails us reaching out through the alumni network and the business network, understanding what the specific needs are of the ventures. We actually ask them, what do they need by way of expertise and connectivity? And we reach out into, as I say, the alumni and business community to do that. I want to acknowledge sort of the mentor-in-chief for Brown University in entrepreneurship, and that's Barrett Hazeltine. He's sort of the grandfather of entrepreneurship. And as the Barrett, I think for many of the alums who are watching on the live stream, you're a familiar name and a familiar character for all of those folks. So thank you for being here. I also want to acknowledge something else that the president indicated, which is the connectivity of B-Lab and the Nelson Center with the community, and that is embodied in a variety of ways. She mentioned the investment in the I-195 building initiative. There's another way, very specific as it pertains to entrepreneurship, and that is that the Nelson Center has partnered with the Slater Technology Fund, which is a venture capital fund here in Rhode Island. The managing director is Thorne Sparkman. He's here. Thank you, Thorne. Thorne is also a key mentor in the program, so he fulfills many different roles for B-Lab. This particular program is worth noting, however, because there's real money behind it. We identify a venture from Brown University that wants to base and build their venture here in Rhode Island, perhaps in Providence. And the university puts $25,000 in, and the Slater Technology Fund puts in $25,000, and we provide that money to the venture so that they can develop it here. We're very proud in B-Lab that the first venture that received that award was a B-Lab alum. That's Michelle Peterson and Eric Bai in TechStup. And so they were the inaugural recipient of this important award. And so we're grateful to the Slater Center as a key partner in the community for building entrepreneurship and the connections for Brown. I want to now introduce one of our key mentors from this year, and that's Mr. Michael Kaplan. He was identified also as a sector-specific expertise. We have a fashion venture, a very interesting fashion venture in the cohort. You'll hear from them in a moment. And it was my experience in recruiting mentors for B-Lab is very typical in that when we reach out to the mentors or the prospective mentors and we tell them what we're doing in B-Lab, tell them the specific venture rather that we need help with, almost always we get an enthusiastic, yes, sign me up, I will help. And that's certainly what we heard from Michael. We're very grateful for your help. And so we invited Michael here partly to hear from him, but he represents really, or sort of his proxy for the 50 plus mentors that were part of B-Lab. So Michael, welcome.
Thanks, Jason. I'll be really quick because we want to hear from the students. And I really, I guess, would direct my remarks to the students. Hopefully I'm a proof point of what President Paxson said about the Brown entrepreneurial community. I graduated class of 95, and the entrepreneurial ecosystem that we had at that time was really fertile and terrific. I remember my years. The famous two were the two Toms that had created Tom's Nectar Juice Company, living in Martha's Vineyard, and people were creating wonderful things even then. But to really see where the program has gone and what you guys have done in terms of the Nelson Center and Dan, all the work you've done, and building on what Professor Hazeltine really imbued in all of us as students. And by the way, it's a real privilege to be reversing roles here and speaking to you. It's great to have you here. But to see what's been done is really incredible. And so it's really exciting, I think, for all of us that play a role in this wonderful Brown entrepreneurial community. I think, one of the things that I wanted to talk about was really when I was mentoring this group of students this past summer, it reconnected me with why Brown is such a powerful experience for all of us that went here, and specifically with regard to entrepreneurship and starting businesses. I think certainly the curriculum and the quote-unquote lack of requirements, everybody hears about that before they get to Brown, and they say, Brown's the place that doesn't require you to do stuff or doesn't require this or that. And then you get here and you realize, that's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to chart your own course. I mean, it's pretty hard to look at a blank canvas and say, what's the path that I'm going to walk? And, that's, to me, now looking back on it 20 years later, it's really emblematic of life. I mean, there's no real requirements in life. I mean, you can, the students, you can take especially a Brown degree and do anything. And you can literally do anything in any area that you choose to focus on. And for me, specifically why entrepreneurship benefits from the kind of experience that Brown is because when you chart your own course, you typically are put in touch with your own purpose. You define your way as an 18-year-old to 22-year-old at Brown, or whenever you're here for your experience, and you define your path, and typically you're doing that with some reasons of why in mind. Why are you choosing to go in this major or set this up as your curriculum? And for me, the most successful businesses today, the most successful entrepreneurs, the most successful CEOs, and the most successful companies, are managed around that sense of purpose, that sense of why. We live in a marketplace today that is more demanding than ever for companies to be transparent about their values, what they stand for, their commitment to the community. I mean, these are all things I experienced in my company that was a 30-store multi-channel fashion brand. But that is something I learned at Brown, being purpose-driven. And I think it's inherent in the experience we have. I think the other thing that's absolutely critical for entrepreneurs, which I tried to work into mentoring this summer as we were rethinking our business plan and some strategies, is the Brown experience inherently teaches emotional intelligence, which is absolutely critical to successful entrepreneurship and absolutely critical to a successful life. There was a lot of my friends that came to Brown as freshmen and sophomores saying we're pre-med or we want to go into engineering, and they learned or discovered to either stay on course or change course over the course of the years of school. And doing that is something that's very important in life. Inherent, and I think particularly for entrepreneurs, emotional intelligence has an incredibly high bar, because as an entrepreneur, you can see 100 sources of capital, and one can give you money, and by definition, you're successful, but it means 99 people told you, I don't agree with you, I don't believe in your model, and no. So how do you know to stay on course, stick with your conviction, or make a change and adapt to a different direction? Those are things I really learned at Brown. So for me, mentoring was a real joy, getting back in touch with a lot of these things and elements of my own Brown experience and my own entrepreneurial journey, which really wouldn't have happened without Brown. And so I guess I would just close in saying that if any alums are out there on the video stream or in the audience, whatever, I would strongly encourage you to do anything associated with the university in this area, because seeing how young people at a university are identifying problems, their approach to solving them, how they're working on things is a way to keep current, it's a way to keep fresh. And honestly, from a time commitment standpoint, I would say that I gained far more than I gave in the mentoring experience this summer. So I'm thrilled to have been a part of it, and let's hear from the companies. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. That's terrific. Thanks again for all of your hard work. Well, this is the moment that we've been waiting for. We want to see the student ventures. What's going to happen now is that they're just going to come up one right after the other, and about a 5-minute pitch that's going to describe what it is they've been working on and where they're headed. Our first group is the one, in fact, that Michael was mentor for. It's called Everywhere.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Crystal.
My name is Mimi.
And we are the founders of Everywhere. Let's see. How does this work? There we go. This is Judy. I should mention that Judy is actually a real person. I met Judy about 1.5 years ago here on Brown's campus. Judy has her master's degree in education. She worked for the World Bank, the State Department, and even has several honorary doctorates. Judy is also a wheelchair user. She also has limited hand dexterity and restricted range of motion. And additionally, her body proportions fall outside of the standards that have historically dictated apparel construction. Now, what this means for Judy is that managing zippers or buttons can be a challenge, and that different cuts of clothing can be harder to put on or take off. When Judy goes clothing shopping, she wants what most of us want, whether that's have the clothing fit well, it's comfortable, it looks good on her, it portrays her personality, it looks professional in the workplace, etc. But finding clothing that meets these functional and symbolic needs is particularly challenging for Judy. So when Judy goes shopping on mainstream brands or marketplaces, she encounters an interface that looks like this, kind of standard and something we're very familiar with. However, it lacks 3 critical things for Judy. First and foremost, if she's unable to filter products that don't have buttons or zippers, she has to look for this feature on every article of clothing. Secondly, if the clothing doesn't show or the photos don't show both sides of a garment, she may not be able to know if it has buttons or zippers, and so she may inadvertently order a blouse that has a button at the back of the shirt that she's unable to fasten on her own. And like many of us, Judy values her autonomy, even if it's just for her morning routine. Lastly, if subpar product descriptions may be leaving out non-trivial information for Judy. Now, when Judy shops on different sites that sell products that are more tailored towards people with disabilities, she's often encountering an interface that looks like this. These aesthetically archaic sites are more reminiscent of a medical device company. And they lack that edgy feel that the fashion industry is known for, thus perpetuating a marginalized experience for Judy and millions more. But as a market maker, we serve both the needs of the consumers and the suppliers of these specialized products. Our consumers include people like Judy, but also others that might have arthritis, who might have limited functionality due to Parkinson's, they might be little people, or they could just be an athlete that had recovered from a surgery or an injury, or anyone else whose health and function interacts with their clothing. And that will be all of us at some point in our lifetime.
And our suppliers range from individual entrepreneurs working out of their homes and selling their products on Etsy to larger international brands. And for the entrepreneurs who are working out of their homes, they often lack the time, capital, or expertise to brand their products well, to include high-quality photos, and to build beautiful user interfaces. And even for the larger brands who have the capacity to do so, they often ignore the market insights and end up marginalizing their products, marginalizing their consumers. So despite some of the improvements in the field, there is still an incredible opportunity to standardize, centralize, and improve the buying and selling experience for both the consumers and the suppliers.
In terms of our market size, it includes people like Judy and all the other categories of individuals I mentioned. This market is more than 60 million strong.
And with regards to our suppliers, there are over 200 potential partners, all actively seeking distribution channels and all offering a range of products.
So our supplier or our consumers buying, they're going to love shopping with us, and our suppliers are going to love doing business with us. This is because we are going to centralize, reshoot, and rebrand these products, and furthermore offer a fashion-forward user interface that has site functionality that is tailored to the consumer's needs. So in the end, we're going to be able to offer improved consumer experience. And in doing so, we're going to be able to improve the sales of suppliers as well as customer acquisition and satisfaction.
And our business model centers around dropshipping arrangements. Essentially, we retail and collect payment directly from our consumers, and our suppliers finalize the delivery. Then we collect between 18 to 25% commission on sales. As well as that, we're also offering advertising space for brands who wish to promote themselves further. In the end, our suppliers are willing to pay us to transform themselves from medicalized products into truly inclusive and into truly fashionable players in the much larger apparel industry.
So for this venture, I'm going to bring with me about 6 years of professional expertise in clinical research and having served as an executive director of a nonprofit that did international work working with kids that needed surgical care that have scoliosis. During that time, I interacted with over 600 patients, over 100 medical professionals across 7 different countries. During that time, I learned a great deal about the apparel needs of this particular population, and even led the redesign of the hospital gown that we use for clinical exams. Furthermore, our venture is informed by 4 years of my academic research in health, apparel, and disability. I wrote my master's thesis here at Brown and did original qualitative research on apparel consumerism for marginalized consumers.
And as a design student at RISD, I'm hoping to bring over 4 years of academic experience in the visual arts, over 1 year of experience in user interface design, and we're so happy to have such a great network of people working with us, including Michael Kaplan, the founder of Fashion to Figure. And our company truly believes that body diversity should be the norm and is the norm. And with our current viable prototype, we're looking to raise early seed funding and further build our relationships with investors and the industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks. I want to point out, Mimi introduced herself as from RISD. We have a valued partnership with RISD. Kevin and Scott, thank you for being here and for sharing some of your top students with B-Lab. We appreciate it. Our next presenter is Pavlo, and he'll be telling you about IntelliBell, which is trying to keep produce sales going out the front door and not being wasted out the back door.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Pavlo, and I'm trying to make the lives of produce managers easier while also increasing the sales of grocery stores. So imagine you're opening up a grocery store in your area. There will be other grocery stores in the area that also appear. So you would have Whole Foods, Price Chopper, Top & Shop, Trader Joe's. I'm just trying not to get sued here. So, and because of this competition, you would expect that, without this competition, you'd expect a lot of money to come in. But with that competition, you end up only making around 1% to 2% profit on all your sales. And so you start looking at deficiencies in your supermarket. You look at what can I optimize in order to make my sales larger. And you really find out that you lose around $500,000 every single year on just produce. And so you charge your produce manager with the task of really solving this problem. And we've been fortunate enough to meet this one person named Josh. He was a produce manager at Price Right, and we got to hear his story. So Josh has the very hard task of buying just enough produce in order to, one, not have too little produce because that would anger the customers and then they would not want to come to the store again, but also not too much because that would lead to waste and decreased profits. And this turns out to be a very hard problem for Josh. Very frustrating. It's almost a guessing game. But Josh has a brilliant idea. He can use technology to help him make better decisions about how much to order for his produce. So Josh takes a look at current solutions out on the market. Invitron and Fresh AI and Applied Data Corp are all current solutions that exist, but they're very primitive. They rely only on past sales. And to see why that's a problem, well, that's almost like throwing a dice 10 times and then trying to make predictions about the future from those 10 dice rolls. It's hard. So the other factors that exist that past sales don't really track, think about outbreaks in E. coli or Salmonella. It turns out that people are very disinterested in lettuce, except when there's an outbreak. So consumer interest peaks when there's a Salmonella outbreak, and sales follow with it. And this is so problematic for grocery stores that Kroger said that it's a multi-million-dollar problem. And having those previous systems in place that don't track these Salmonella outbreaks or disease outbreaks makes a very costly effect for those grocery stores. On a more lighthearted note, we have Kylie Jenner over here. So these other traditional grocery optimization softwares don't really track influencers out in the market. And it turns out that people are making very big claims about certain foods that are impacting sales. So Kylie Jenner over here, for the first time, tried cereal with milk. And I looked on Google Trends, and milk sales were up the next day. So influencers. And she got 171,000 people to like this, so you know it's going to make a big deal on the sales. So Josh still can't complete his job. He has really rubbish software that doesn't really accomplish his task, makes terrible predictions, and frankly, it's just not good. So the solution to Josh's problem is to have good software management software in order to make Josh's life easier and so that he can actually keep his job. So we are a team of software engineers, mathematicians, economists, and we thought we would be able to do something. I, having been founding a different startup in the past, we have people who researched in the computer science field and have done online marketing. So we are probably the best team to tackle this issue. Our software lets Josh keep his job as well as increase profits for supermarkets. So we take a look at many different factors, not just past sales and trends, but we take a look at events and holidays that would be coming up, weather conditions, disease outbreaks like we saw before, social media trends and influencers, consumer psychology, and the list goes on. And then we take all these factors and we combine them with mathematical techniques and software in order to produce the best possible predictions for these supermarkets. Besides our great team, we also have a team of fantastic mentors. I would like to just highlight one of them. He's in the crowd somewhere. Eric Schultz, thank you so much for all your help over the summer. He's been a fantastic resource. He actually worked on a different part of, it's a similar problem, but a different part of the supply chain, and he's been a fantastic resource for us. Our plan for the next 6 months, so we're gonna be starting in New England, targeting mid to large scale supermarkets, and we're gonna be charging those stores $2,000 per month for a savings of $6,000 per month per store. And we hope that through this, Josh can finally sleep well at night and can keep his job. And that's something that we strive for every day. So we are looking for connections into the supermarket industry to really get us in there, and also talent in the AI space. So if you're interested, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pavlo. Our next presenter is hoping that some of the B-Lab ventures will be her future customers.
Hi, my name is Rhyme Kim, and I'm the founder of Parallel Market, making it possible to trade private shares in real time. Some of the most amazing companies like Uber and Airbnb, they're staying private for a really long time. So you may have heard of these unicorns, out in Silicon Valley. They're like the, private companies worth over $1 billion. They're just staying private for a long time, and what this ends up meaning is that their shareholders, like the employees of these companies that have shares as part of their compensation, or maybe earlier investors. And they're wealthy on paper, right? But all that wealth is kind of tied up. And so if they want to buy a house or send their kids to college, it's like, how do I kind of turn this paper into money? And then on the other hand, you have other potential investors who would love the opportunity to invest in Uber and Airbnb and other amazing large private companies. And as a result of this, of kind of the problems on both sides, we've resulted in the birth of the secondary market. So there's like NASDAQ private market, and there's other brokers that match up kind of the people who want to sell private shares, with the new investors. But this market's pretty inefficient, and you end up just the brokers that match up the buyers and the sellers. It kind of takes a long time to finalize that deal. And also, as a broker, you'd only make money off of one transaction if you find a buyer and a seller. So they're leaving actually money on the table. What I'm proposing is, what if there was an exchange for private shares, like a New York Stock Exchange, but for private shares? And the idea would be to create the infrastructure to allow for the real-time trading of private shares, and you'd be able to extract more money because the idea is you'd create tokens representing the shares, and the tokens would be tradable. And so instead of a broker that locates a batch of shares and then a buyer and gets a fee one time, you have this token that can be traded over and over, representing just one batch of shares. So you can make a lot more money. And how it works is, say there's this employee of Uber. Her name's Alex, and she has some shares of Uber as part of her pay. And she wants to buy a house now and just settle down. And so she approaches Parallel and says, hey, can you help me sell my 10 shares? And so Parallel issues 10 Uber tokens representing these shares. And as the Uber token, it's now released. And then once the Uber tokens are first all sold, that sum of money is returned back to Alex. And so she can now go buy her house. And then each time the Uber token is traded, you can see now you've created this basically like electronic market for private shares. And the market opportunity is really just private companies in general. I mentioned the unicorns, the largest of those. But beyond this opportunity, there's other amazing, large, also medium-sized American companies that form the bedrock of this economy. And so these companies are also, could be using this solution. And $720 billion is the total valuation of the private, unicorn shares. And $27 billion is the estimate for secondary transactions to be completed this year. The business model is twofold. So first, since I'm helping Alex turn her paper shares into cash, she provides Parallel with a liquidation fee of 5% on the transaction size. So that's really the market rate right now. And the fee per trade, so basically this would be the tokens. So each time the token's traded, you take a transaction from the buyer and the seller. And actually this fee, what's unique about kind of this business model is that part of that fee from the token trading is shared with like back to the employee, the shareholder. And so that's why Alex would choose Parallel as her liquidity provider instead of another, maybe finding a broker who could sell her shares or finding a fund that is interested in investing in Uber. And so this potential upside that goes back to the original shareholder is why this is a compelling idea for her. And on the other hand, obviously you have, the new day traders and also just new investors who never had access to Uber can now invest. I completed building a prototype earlier this spring with 3 other engineers at Brown through course CS 132, and I'm studying computer science, so I helped build the trading engine from scratch. And so I'm highlighting my 2 key mentors, who I work with at Brown, including Jason, and the 4 people who helped me build the prototype. And as for me, I started getting interested in this space because I was actually the chief marketing officer at a secondary fund in Hong Kong, and I, worked on Airbnb and DD secondary deals. So yeah, if you're a student and you have any questions, would like to, learn more, please shoot me an email. And I'm also, always looking for mentors and securities lawyers. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
In the developed world, it's not that difficult to get access to, say, lower extremity prosthetics, but it remains a very, very big challenge in third world countries, developing nations, and Koi Prosthetics is working to solve that problem.
Hi, my name is Matthew Borges, and I'm the co-founder of Koi Prosthetics, a group dedicated to increasing the accessibility of prosthetic devices through the design of low-cost, affordable, universal prosthetic solutions. Today, there are over 40 million amputees in the developing world. However, only 5% have access to a quality prosthetic. This is preventing them from returning to work, returning to an active role in their community, and returning to an autonomous lifestyle. This number isn't going to go down by its own. Due to war, the remnants of war, and negligible traffic laws, this number will actually only rise as the years go on. This problem is also exacerbated by the medical infrastructure in much of the developing world. Hospitals are few and far between, and those that can meet the needs of an amputee do not have the resources necessary to meet the staggering number of patients they must contend with each day. Now, the average amputation is of the lower limb, and for a prosthetic leg, there are 4 components: the socket, the knee, the pylon, and the foot. Our team, in order to tackle the problem of inaccessibility, has decided to focus on the prosthetic socket. And this is in response to our business trip to Vietnam last summer, where we conducted bottom-up market research and found, through talking to local prosthetists and amputees, that the socket was the biggest barrier between an impoverished amputee and a quality prosthetic. And the reason for this is the long fitting and custom molding process that is involved in every prosthetic socket. This process is not practical in this environment. It, for an amputee, will take a day to get to a hospital, a week to get fitted and for that socket to be molded, and another day to get back home. This is a week away from work, a week away from family, a week away from other responsibilities that they can't afford to be away from for this long. Therefore, no matter how good of a prosthetic leg is made, it's not practical if the socket is still made in this format. Our solution, however, is a universal, adjustable prosthetic socket. This socket is capable of shaping to different size residual limbs in different patients, making a more one-size-fits-all product. This removes this molding process and is now a more practical solution. For comfort, this socket is also capable of being adjusted by the user for small changes in the residual size of the limb, such as swelling and other conditions that can occur over the course of a day. Other adjustable sockets do exist. However, they're limited in scope. They're not tackling this problem. Prosthetic sockets are meant to change for maybe those residual size changes over the course of a day. However, they're not made for different patients. They're still custom molded and do not solve this problem. Moreover, they're marketed towards Paralympians and professional athletes. They're not made for an impoverished amputee in, say, Vietnam. We will sell this We will sell this socket directly to hospitals so doctors can still fit as many patients as they can. This will open up a new demographic of patients for these hospitals. More patients, and selling at the same margin will raise profits for this hospital, making our solution a more practical device for hospitals and patients. Doctors can spend less time with every individual, but still deliver the same level of care that everybody is accustomed to. And for patients, they now have that practical solution. They can get to the hospital and be fitted in the same day and still receive that care. All of this will be accomplished by myself and a group of Brown engineers who all have an extensive background in design and orthopedics. Furthermore, we're aided by a group of local industry professionals, such as Penta, a nonprofit already established in Vietnam, and Nunnery, a local prosthetist who has shown us some of the ins and outs of the industry. Currently, we're trying to build our network in Vietnam and Southeast Asia. That way, when our product is ready for sale and production, we're able to hit the ground running. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Our next venture is Tereva. Kelly, come on up. Kelly is here presenting. His co-founder, Gwen, is overseas chasing the venture as we speak. So thanks, Kelly.
Of course. Great. Make sure you can hear me. Hi, my name is Kelly, and I'd like to start today with a little bit of an activity. I'd like everyone to close your eyes for a second. Trust me, it's okay. And think about a storybook you remember reading or having read to you as a kid. Yeah, you're feeling all warm and fuzzy? It's good, it's good. So, what came automatically to your mind? Were you having a good time with the wild things, saying goodnight to the moon because you're going to sleep? Or were you stuck in the desert with the Little Prince? Maybe you weren't doing any of these. That's completely fine. But as a young reader, these books have an amazing way of reflecting our own lives, what we see around us, and even the languages that we speak and understand. However, for millions of people around the world, that just isn't possible. These books don't reflect anything that they understand. Their languages don't align, and the culture is just different, to say the least. Once again, my name is Kelly, and I am one of the co-founders of Tereva Books, a nonprofit publishing house that seeks to increase the diversity in children's books through increasing the cultural and linguistic diversity. Because we understand that picture books are not just picture books. They are for kids another world that they get to explore. And when that world doesn't include them, it's no longer their own world. We focused primarily on one country in Africa. We focused on Zimbabwe. Because while Zimbabwe is actually an English-speaking country, meaning everything from business to government to the school system is taught and understood to be in English. However, most of the kids who enter a first grade classroom speak one of the 15 other languages and not English. This makes absolutely no sense because now these children just have no way to interact with the economy, with the government, with the people around them. In a sense, they no longer have a right to their own country. So with that, we focused on creating, within Zimbabwe itself, the government has done something very creative and groundbreaking. They have worked to create a policy that allows English, that allows the indigenous language to be taught as the primary language in schools in order to increase the reading comprehension level. UNESCO actually found that the best way to get someone to learn another language is to get them at a very good and strong reading and comprehension level in their native or indigenous language. Because without that, there is no way for them to transition into another one. And before this point, a lot of students were just being forced into learning English when they went back home and spoke their own indigenous language. So there was no way for them to continue this learning. So what we do is we actually create, print, and distribute storybooks that are in all of Zimbabwe's indigenous 15 languages, as well as English. We do this because we understand how important it is for kids to not only see themselves in the books, that's fine, to not only see themselves in the books, but to get a better understanding of their languages, what it looks like, what it sounds like. Because for a lot of these languages, it's a spoken thing. It isn't something that is written. And once they see that, there's a much easier way for them to understand who they are, like the things around them, which didn't exist before. So this summer, we actually spent a lot of time working on this, and we're proud to say that we actually are able. We have our first book. Oh, yeah. Put this back. The presentation might work. No, it doesn't. But there's a picture in there, but I have the book. So it's fine. So with that, we were able to print the books, and in the first month, pause. And in the first month, have already sold about 40 books, pre-sale. So we're working to make that accessible to predominantly people in the Western countries who speak English as their first languages, because we're using that as a vehicle to propel our venture in different parts of Africa. So as I mentioned before, we are focusing firstly on Zimbabwe, but are hoping to expand from there as we find a more and better suited model to replicate and tweak as we go. Okay, so I'd like to end by just saying a simple thing. The history of mankind is built on this idea of storytelling and creating connections through our similarities and differences. And now more than ever, it's important that we not only create those bridges and those connections, but strengthen them. If you would like, you can join us on the journey as we tell the story of mankind and the people around us. Because as Toreva means, when we speak, we are. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, great. Akwaba, your friend me Joey. Madam Funia Shannon. Yababa Betremo, Dialogue Africa.
Hi, I'm Shannon. This is Joey, and we are Dialogue Africa.
Dialogue Africa is a software platform that teaches you African languages. We aim to fill the gaping hole in language learning resources for people interested in African languages and for companies and businesses with commercial interest in these languages. There are over 1,500 languages spoken by 1.3 billion people on the African continent. Of these languages, 200 of them are recognized and classified by the UN as institutional, which means not only are they standardized and modernized, but they're also used and sustained by institutions beyond the home and the community. These languages are also used in mass media. And so this is to show how viable this many languages are.
I'm sure many of you will be familiar with the major online learning platforms for languages, Rosetta Stone, Duolingo, Babbel. Can anybody guess how many African languages you can learn on these platforms? Okay, well, it's a little better. It's actually 3, but none of them are spoken in sub-Saharan Africa, which is quite frankly a travesty, because this means that there are hundreds of millions of people speaking these languages, and there's no way for the rest of the world to interact with them on a business or a cultural level. The print resources for many of these languages are also horrible. In Ghana, our beachhead market, one of the major languages spoken is Twi. These are the 2 authoritative books for learning Twi. As you can see, they are old, they are dense. You cannot learn anything unless you have a teacher sitting right next to you explaining every single thing. Our solution to this is a fun, engaging online platform that offers simple, easily digestible lessons for these languages. You're not going to learn Twi or Hausa or Shona in the same way that you would learn French or Spanish, and your language learning software should reflect that. Our software takes into account the idiomatic and tonal nature of these languages, and it provides key cultural context to prepare users for real-world interactions.
We're trying to create value for 2 main groups of customers. The first group is individual users. For example, families living abroad. These are, say, African parents that have left the homeland to, live abroad, who are in constant fear of their children not being able to connect to their culture or heritage and feeling a great sense of loss. And so we're trying to provide resources to help with this desperate need. We're also looking to serve expatriates working in the African continent, tourists who are visiting so they can better navigate the space, diasporans, basically people of African descent all over the world who want to connect or reconnect with these languages. Second group is institutions. We're looking at businesses. For example, Unilever is a consumer goods retailer that operates in Ghana and sends employees down there to work, and we believe that our language training software and services will provide them with a key competitive advantage for business success. We're also looking to work with government organizations, intergovernmental organizations like the United Nations too, and universities. The global language services and technology market is currently valued at $43 billion. In the next 4 years, it's projected to grow by $4.5 billion. And this growth is driven by increase in immigration, globalization, and legislation for the language services. We are planning to capitalize on this growth and cater specifically to these grossly underserved languages and provide as much value as we can there.
So we're looking at a subscription-based model with a free tier, an individual tier, a family tier, and a corporate tier, with each tier being customized in terms of price, but also services offered to meet the individual customer need.
We're also looking to, for corporations, giving varying packages where we sell licenses that are tailored specifically to what they want. We have an early version out, and we're still in development, and so we would love for you to visit www.dialogue-africa.com and check it out, give us your feedback. We are still in our customer acquisition phase, so we would love any expertise, mentorship in that direction, and any contacts to businesses on the ground or anywhere across the globe that would find a lot of value in the services we provide.
And once again, I'm Shannon, this is Joey. We are Brown alum who are really passionate about this project, but also bring a great deal of expertise in African linguistics and more intimate knowledge of the entrepreneurial ecosystem in our beachhead market. So we'd love to talk to you more about this, and we hope we can chat after the showcase. Thank you.
Good job.
This works, or is accidentally muted?
Okay, now we're going to go back to the one that we skipped formally. Come on out, guys.
Hello, everyone. My name is Diane, and this is Matt.
Hello.
And we're here to talk to you about Formally. You might remember us from President Paxson's introduction. And like she said, our simple goal is to make immigration forms easier. Now, I like to share my own experience of how daunting these forms can be. I had to fill out such a form before I attended Brown, so I could move to the US legally, coming from Rwanda, where I'm from. It was a long and technical form, and I was worried that any mistake that I would make would mean that I'm risking my chance at attending Brown and a university I really cared about. I reached out to Brown, and fortunately, they helped me, and I'm here, so it means it worked out for me. But that says nothing about the 6 million applicants that the USCIS, that send their applications to the USCIS every single year. What happens to them? So these applications include visas like mine, naturalization applications, but a particularly critical group of applicants are asylum seekers. And these are people who are filling out these forms in order to get refuge in the US. So let's look at the form that they have to fill out. Before we go to that, in 2017, the US made a commitment of admitting about 110,000 asylum applicants, but only admitted 45,000. And the reason this 65,000 did not get the refuge they were promised goes back to this form that they have to fill out in order to make that case. Theirs is called the I-589, or the application for withholding of removal and asylum, if you're not into numbers. It's 14 pages, and it has 400 different fields. Let's take a closer look at the first few fields. The very first one asks you to check this box if you also want to apply for withholding of removal under the Convention Against Torture. Notice the legal jargon and the interesting sentence structure. The next few questions ask you for your alien registration number, your US Social Security number, and your USCIS online account number. These are all very critical questions, but this form does very little to tell you if these are things you should know, where do you get them, and what are you really asking. So who do these asylum seekers turn to for help when they're just as confused and worried as I was? There are plenty of lawyers and NGOs in this space that have dedicated their time to doing just that. Unfortunately, they often have to go back and forth in order to gain really in order to get really complicated questions, like the information about your past employment and all the schools and that you attended and your siblings attended. They often have to translate back and forth between different languages because these are foreigners and not necessarily fluent in English. And this turns out to be a very time and money costly process. As a result, they're unable to help about 86% of those they set out to help. And these people go through these processes without legal representation. And what this means in this notorious quote is that they are 5 times more likely to be denied this asylum. So how do we streamline this process and make these forms more accessible and increase representation for these people? And that's exactly what Formally has set out to do.
Formally is an online, intuitive form-filling service with empathy built in. Which sounds nice, but what does empathy mean in the context of a form? Well, it means taking a complex, weird question with no context whatsoever, like what's your social security number, and giving it context. Let's take a look at question number 24. It asks, are you fluent in English? It seems like this is a pretty innocuous question, and maybe you'd think to answer yes if you want to improve your chances. But what it's actually asking you is, are you willing to forfeit your right to an interpreter during your asylum interview? And that's a really important question to get right. So that's why we provide critical context by explaining that you're going to give up your right if you answer yes to this question. We don't just translate between legalese and English, we translate into hundreds of other languages to make these forms as accessible as possible, something that these forms are not currently supplied by the US government. In the end, we take 4 costly hours of lawyer time and interpreter time and transform it into just 1, where these people can be helped the best way possible by these professionals without wasting so much money on translators and going back and forth to get different documents. In the end, the best part about this is that gives people agency. This costs nothing to each individual applicant, and we're really excited to make that and remove that bureaucratic barrier of cost by charging organizations and lawyers a subscription fee to use our service. Afterwards, they can distribute access codes to their applicants and provide that at no additional cost. In the end, this is about giving people agency. That's why we're also rolling out various other forms like the EAD. And if you're an international student who wants to work off campus, I'm sure you're really familiar with how complicated and weird this document is. And beyond that, we're also working to move toward the H-1B visa application, working with universities and various organizations to roll these out to people who really need it. We couldn't do this without our amazing team of computer scientists. Noah's out in the audience. Hi. And our CEO, Amelie, actually can't be with us today, unfortunately, because she's in Austria renewing her visa, ironically. So if that does demonstrate how complicated and weird this process is, our own CEO couldn't be here because of that. And we also couldn't do this without our amazing partners and mentors who help us get this into the hands of real users and provide us priceless user feedback. And if you're interested in working with us, if you're a computer scientist or just someone who wants to help out, please contact us at jobs@formally.us. We're always looking to build our team. In the end, this is about breaking bureaucratic barriers, as President Paxson had said. And please help us make Formally a little bit better at making immigration forms better. Thank you.
Before we invite our next venture to come up, I just want to acknowledge a dignitary who's just come in. Mayor Jorge Elorza joined us for a few minutes. Thank you so much for making time. Our next venture is often the most sought-after venture in B-Lab. When she brings her product into the co-working space, people crowd around. Please welcome Ruby and Better Pop.
And my company is the Better Pop. Oh, you got it. Yeah. So everyone loves frozen desserts, especially frozen desserts on sticks. But a lot of the frozen desserts out there on the market are, filled with tons of sugar. They have fruit concentrates and some sort of artificial flavoring. They taste good, but they're not good for us. The Better Pop is made with kombucha that has a lot of probiotics and whole fruit, nothing else. The idea started with my mom, who has a lot of digestive problems. We kept going to doctor appointments with her, and her doctors kept telling her that probiotics would really help her stomach. I presented kombucha as an alternative to, probiotic pills, but she felt weird about consuming a fermented tea. She can't eat a lot of things, but one thing she can eat are popsicles. I decided to combine the two, and that was when the Better Pop was born. Probiotics on the market right now are usually in pill form, and they feel very clinical, and I want to change that. I introduced the Better Pop, a kombucha popsicle. It's a new, familiar, and enjoyable way to consume probiotics. Its unique hexagonal shape has been designed for better biting, sharing, and overall eating experience. So what is kombucha? Kombucha is a fermented tea, and it's packed with probiotics. And probiotics are tiny little organisms that promote a healthy digestive system. A question I often get asked is, do the probiotics die when you freeze them? Don't worry, I've got that figured out. Kombucha is trending and increasing by 25% every year, and the market is currently worth $600 million. The probiotic market is worth $62 billion as of 2014, and is projected to increase to $136 billion by 2024. I want to capitalize on this growth. And the Better Pop is a new and fun way to consume probiotics. So there are popsicles on the market that serve as a sweet treat, and there's kombucha that has probiotics. The area between is my white space, and I believe the Better Pop has great potential to grow. I'll be using social media as my main marketing platform. I'm currently collaborating with a couple companies, as well as having my product at a couple events. I'm also creating relationships with social media influencers and promoting my product through their Instagram accounts and blogs. I'll be starting the company in New York City, and I'll be selling to company events as I gain notoriety. I'll then start, selling to larger company events and eventually local organic grocery stores within the New York area. I'll then begin to ramp up production and find larger distribution channels. My next steps are to launch a crowdfunding campaign, and I'll be using the money to create better molds, rent kitchen space in Brooklyn, and patent the design. I'm looking for partnership, mentorship, and $50,000 to start up. So if you're going to treat yourself, why not treat yourself right?
Our next venture is Persona. It's computer science majors who are trying to fix a major piece of the internet that's broken.
Hello, my name is Eric Delavalle. I'm working with Jacob Begeman and William Shore. Okay. I'm working with Jacob Begeman and William Shore on a venture called Persona, which aims to reduce internet friction by allowing users to create accounts, manage passwords, and verify that they're human with a single click. A lot of websites are designed in a way that drives away potential users. They force people to remember various complex passwords. They force people to repeatedly prove that they're human. They force people to make accounts just to use the most basic features. For example, imagine you're going to an e-commerce shopping site. You find something you want to buy, so you add it to the shopping cart. Then you head to the online checkout, when suddenly you're hit with one of the most dreaded pages on the entire internet. To continue, please sign up for an account. So what do? Do you go through and enter all of your personal information, or do you just leave? If you're like most people, you just leave. In fact, 75% of online shopping carts are abandoned, and 40% of the time that a cart is abandoned, it's abandoned because the shopper was asked to sign up for an account. This equates to billions and billions of dollars in lost sales each year. And it's bad for everybody involved, because websites are missing out on sales and consumers don't get to buy the product they were initially interested in. And this is a problem in more than just e-commerce. For almost all websites, things like reducing friction, increasing user engagement, and verifying that their consumers are real humans are top priorities. We seek to fix these problems by reducing the account creation and human verification processes to a single click. In doing so, we're helping both the producers and consumers of online goods and services by reducing the amount of effort that's required to complete a purchase. So, what does our solution actually look like? Our solution looks and acts like a typical password manager, except for in a couple of key ways. First, we have one-click account creation, which means that our users will never have to leave content pages to go sign up for accounts. And second, we have an integrated CAPTCHA, which means that our users will be able to prove that they're a human one time and then use that proof anywhere. So what does it look like to get started with us? The process is very simple. First, you have to set a master password. Then you quickly enter your personal information. After that, you take a one-time CAPTCHA, and that's it. After that, you'll never have to do any of those processes again. Now, we aren't exactly a password manager because we solve a much more holistic set of problems. But by looking at the password manager market, we can understand the opportunity that we're tapping into here. The password manager market is growing at an annual growth rate of 20%, and it's slated to be a $1.2 billion industry by 2022. But to truly understand the market, we need to look at the differences between today's users and the users of tomorrow. The people who use password managers today are tech savvy, and they're in the know. But the next group of adopters will not be. Thus, this next group of adopters is going to be placing increased emphasis on convenience. So whichever password manager is the most convenient will be the most successful. There are 3 reasons why we are the most convenient among all of our competitors. First, our users will never have to manually sign up for or log into accounts again. Second, our users will never have to take another CAPTCHA. And third, our users won't have to worry about password security because we use an innovative stateless password management algorithm that allows us to generate strong and secure passwords without ever storing those passwords on central servers or on local computers. This is much safer than any of our competitors' offerings. Overall, we think that we've found a fantastic way to make internet use both more convenient and more secure. And we're looking forward to sharing it with all of you guys. Thank you.
Our next venture we tease a little bit and are proud of because even though it's a social enterprise, it's the first and only venture in this year's cohort that's revenue positive.
All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is kind of blinding. Hey everyone, my name is Adim Melamed, and I'm one of the co-founders of Impact Labs, an organization empowering ambitious computer science students to leverage their tech skills for social good. Now let's hope I know how this works. Wonderful. My co-founder Aaron and I started Impact Labs a little over a year ago, when we saw that so many of our friends and acquaintances who were studying computer science were going to the same 5 or 6 organizations. I'm sure you've heard of most of them, or all of them: Amazon, Google, Facebook, Microsoft, Twitter. And what was frustrating and interesting is that so many of our friends here at Brown care a lot about social impact and making a difference, and we're coming back disenchanted, working on problems like servicing ads or creating software that no one really saw. Since Aaron and I were in the social impact space before this, we knew of organizations like Zenesys and Upsolve and Zipline that many of us have never heard of that are using technology to solve human trafficking, to provide financial services for those who are low income, and use drones to deliver medicine to developing countries. And so through this, we saw that there was an opportunity to fill a gap, where there were students who were passionate about creating a difference and making a change, and there were organizations out there that had interesting technical challenges, that were working on socially impactful problems, and most importantly, we're actually offering salaries and compensations that were similar to the biggest tech companies. And so this is kind of the core of the frustration at Impact Labs. We really truly believe that the best and brightest should be working on problems that have the biggest chance and best chance to make a positive difference in this world. And so we tried to dig deep into why this was going on. Why are there students who want to do and want to make a difference but aren't? We broke it down into 2 sets of problems. On the student side, we saw that there was a problem of awareness and access. A lot of students, as I said, care about these sorts of problems, but weren't aware of the opportunities out there because they make a lot of their career decisions, like myself, with the opportunities that we see here at the Career Lab, through our computer science departments, through our friends. But a lot of these organizations that can offer competitive salaries don't have the recruiting budgets to show up at 10, 15, 20, 30 schools. And so there's, as a result of that, students don't necessarily have access to these opportunities in the space. On the other hand, when we were talking to companies in the social impact space, they said that they lacked or didn't have the resources to create a structured talent pipeline for university students. That said, so what that means is they were able to get applications through all these different online channels, but there was no real structured way that they were offering internships or full-time offers to students. However, the biggest problem that we heard time and time again was this idea of a culture fit. They said that they wanted students that both met their technical bar and could think critically about social impact in a really engaging way. Oh wow, those are all ones. I promise that's not what it was on the original. The last one is the idea of exposure. This relates to what I was mentioning before, where students don't necessarily have awareness about the opportunities that are out there. So we saw ourselves uniquely positioned to create some sort of initiative or program or set of programs that could connect university students with the socially impactful ventures out there. We thought if we could raise awareness, come to students, and as a student-led venture ourselves, present the opportunities in a meaningful way, create something that actually made a difference in this space. And so our goal and our mission is to build a national community for computer science students to tackle the most socially impactful problems. Our vision is for that any student who wants to make a difference, who wants to tackle some of these things, whether through starting their own venture or joining a different venture, we are able to provide some meaningful way to make that happen. So we had to test this out, and we had to see if this could actually work, because I'm sure a lot of people out there think that like social impact doesn't necessarily make money. And so we started a few different initiatives. We first began with the Impact Fellowship, which was this January of 2018. We brought in 35 students from 10 different universities over 2 weeks. During those 2 weeks, we had instructors from the Full Stack Academy teach full stack JavaScript, machine learning, and some Solidity, which is a blockchain programming language. And in the evening, students learned heard from speakers from different NGOs and nonprofits and startups and VCs who were working on problems in the healthcare space, the environmental space, sustainability, and using tech for social good. The most interesting part is that a lot of our students, well, in fact, all of them, worked on their own projects at the end. They got into groups and used the technology and the skills that they gained over the 2 weeks to form groups and create these own social ventures that they presented to a panel of judges. And so we saw that this was actually really transformative. A lot of the students were saying the same things that we thought were the central problem, like, wow, I didn't know there were so many organizations in this space and that so many students can actually like go out and do this. And at the same time, it was really exciting to have companies come up to us and say, wow, this is the first time I can talk about tech and social impact and have people engage and be able to engage in the conversation. And so we wanted to raise the stakes a little bit more, and we launched the Impact Summit, which was this past June, also in New York City. For a weekend, we brought 250 computer science students, and were able to bring in over $84,000 for the event. Throughout the weekend, we had a blockchain hackathon where we brought in instructors who taught more blockchain protocols. In fact, they even paid us to do that. We had a career fair with over 11 different socially impactful companies looking to meet with students. We had 60 different organizations who spoke about these different problems and how they're using technology. And then perhaps most important and exciting is we ourselves were able to give out $40,000 in prize money to 6 student ventures who were working on socially impactful problems. So this was all just really, really exciting for us, and we were just excited to have people like Andrew Yang come in, and Michael Fay, who's not well known, but runs one of the most effective charities in the world. And so we saw that we really struck a nerve, that we were able to create something that engaged people, that brought them together, and was raising awareness of the opportunities out there. I don't want to touch on this, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but we've found different ways that we've been able to make money through career fair, having instructors pay to teach students, resume book and hiring placements. And we see that as an opportunity for us in the future to continue launching different ventures. I think it's important to mention where we want to take this and where we see this going. Over the next few years, we want to be able to put on fellowships and summits and other kinds of events in every major city and university. We see ourselves as uniquely positioned to host different kinds of events and aggregate different kinds of resources, like making an incubator or a makerspace. We want to get into the tech education space. We want to increase our online presence and host international hackathons for emerging technologies. So far, it's been Aaron and I, the 2 co-founders, but we've been really grateful to have a core team of 7 people who work on a variety of different things like design and program management. And we recently launched an ambassador program where students across, 3 countries and 8 different universities have kind of come up to us and said, I really care about this and I want to help out. And so every week they help us out in different projects that we're working on. Moving forward over the next few months, we have 4 really exciting things that we're working on. The first is that we're launching an event late November that is providing technical education for emerging technologies like blockchain and AI. We're bringing in strategic partners that can offer more established venues so that we're not at a different place every single year. We're working to build out our online presence so that we can really just spread the awareness of the opportunities out there. The communities that we build really make a difference, but we want to be able to scale that more effectively. And then the last is the ambassador program, where we saw that we have this unique opportunity to bring in so many different students from different countries and different universities together to make a difference. And so if you're a student who cares about what we're doing, or if you're a socially impactful company who thinks what we're doing is also cool, we'd love to talk. Thank you so much.
Our next venture has a really interesting take on an exploding part of the food industry, which is non-dairy milks.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kevin Eve. I'm co-founder of Eve and Matthew. We make non-dairy milk from concentrate, which allows dining halls and cafeterias to meet demand for non-dairy milk. So what do we mean by non-dairy milk? So non-dairy milk is a plant-based beverage made by blending nuts or grain with water. The most popular of these are soy, almond, and coconut milk. There are many reasons why these plant-based alternatives can be better than dairy. For one, soy, almond, and coconut milk have less sugar and fewer calories than milk. They release about 1/4 of the greenhouse gases as cow's milk, and by drinking plant-based beverages, we reduce the need for livestock. And then on top of all that, 65% of the human population can't digest lactose, the sugar found in cow's milk. And so this shows there's a big market for these beverages. The 2018 projected retail sales for non-dairy milk is $1.6 billion, and the market is growing at about 10% per year. You can see this in the local grocery store. The dairy aisle, a significant portion of the shelf space is dedicated to non-dairy milk. You can see soy, almond, and coconut milk featured prominently, but also some of the newer entrants like pea and hemp milk. So there's a great variety of these beverages. And while the grocery store can easily accommodate this increase in demand and variety, if you run a cafeteria or a food service, it's really difficult to provide these products. You're stuck with one of two options. One is a bulk dispenser that serves almond or soy milk ready to drink from a bag, and the other is to provide a countertop refrigerator for self-service. But neither of these options really fit the bill. Ready-to-drink milk takes up too much space for a cafeteria to provide the variety that their diners want. And a self-service refrigerator, the service is slow, it's messy, and there's a ton of packaging waste. And so we solve these problems with non-dairy milk dispensed from concentrate. So we install a dispenser just like this one in a cafeteria, and it allows us to serve 4 varieties and up to 4 gallons of each while maintaining fast, convenient service. And because we use concentrate, there's a 3 times reduction in the amount of packaging waste and transportation emissions. And this is what it looks like. This is our prototype setup. The dispenser on the left mixes 2 parts water with 1 part of the soy milk concentrate you see on the right. We developed this beverage with all natural ingredients this summer, and it's ready for launch this fall. We're going to launch our product into college cafeterias. This is a $27 million a year market, and it's growing about 8% per year. You can see some examples of schools below, and most notably, even at a small school like Williams College, they still serve, could you not hear me? They still serve a significant amount of non-dairy milk. And we plan to be a leader in this industry within 3 years because we've talked to 15 college food service directors. All of them have verified the demand for these products and the difficulty in supplying them. And 4 are so enthusiastic that they want us to install a dispenser this fall for a paid pilot. But coffee shops are just the beginning. This is a fundamentally better way to deliver non-dairy milk. So coffee shops, restaurants, hotels offer exciting future markets, and soon we hope to deliver our products straight to your door and to the grocery store shelf. I started this venture with a good friend of mine, Philip Matthew. We met building race cars during our time as undergrad at Brown. We're both passionate about beverages and building new things. We've also been assisted by a great mentor network, including the awesome Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship. We're excited to launch our product this fall and would love to hear from you. If you're connected to the food and beverage industry, or if you love non-dairy milk, please reach out. You can find us on social media at EMBevco and online at evematthew.com. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kevin. Our next presenter, Rosie, is going to talk about a very interesting technical solution to an interesting garment malfunction.
I was on a date with a guy I really like, and he took me dancing. So I wore this fun, backless dress with a sticky bra. A sticky bra is a backless and strapless bra that sticks directly to a woman's breasts. My favorite song came on. My hands went up, and my sticky bra went down. Not only was I humiliated, I was frustrated. It was only my third time ever wearing the sticky bra, and it had already lost its stick. I was not ready to go out and spend another $40 on a new sticky bra that would only last a few wears. Unfortunately, this problem is not unique to me. I've spoken to hundreds of women who've had very similar issues and agree that these current sticky bras just don't work. Especially with new women's fashion trends on the rise, backless, strapless, and halter tops and dresses are all very popular, and an essential undergarment for them is a sticky bra. However, current sticky bras are terrible. First of all, you wear them 3 or 4 times, and they begin to lose their stick, not providing the woman with the confidence she deserves when going out or simply walking down the street on a nice day. Also, they're expensive. They cost, on average, $40, and it's just not worth the investment when you can only wear them a few times. And lastly, they are very difficult to clean and care for. You can't just take this sticky bra off and throw in the washing machine and dryer. You have to delicately hand wash it. Meanwhile, hair and dust are constantly collecting on the inner shells, leading to a very unsanitary experience for the woman wearing the bra. In fact, on the leading sticky bra website, New Bra, the most frequently asked question is, do you offer replaceable adhesives? To which the answer is no. Clearly, the customers are asking for this. This is why I thought of, and am currently in the product development phase of creating the Reliabra, the first ever sticky bra with removable and replaceable adhesives. The bra shell itself lasts up to 8 years, and the adhesives are replaced on an as-need basis. Our bra is also affordable. We are pricing our bra shell that comes with 2 adhesives for $35 and $10 for a pack of 3 adhesives, allowing the customer to save over $200 over the bra's lifetime. We are utilizing the printer ink razor blade business model, which allows for customer retention and recurring revenue, as well as 33% profit margins each fiscal year. Our bra is also the first ever sticky bra that can go in the washing machine and dryer. After you wear your bra a few times and you feel like you need to wash it, you peel out the adhesives, wash your bra, and when you're ready to wear it again, place in brand new adhesives, and you're ready for a fun night out without the fear of your bra falling off mid-dance floor. This is a market that I'm familiar with. Our total addressable market are women ages 15 to 55 with extra spending money and bra cup sizes A through D. There are over 34 million women in this market. However, we are initially targeting those women ages 18 through 26, still a 7 million person market. These women are either in college or fresh out of college and are always wearing these fun, backless, strapless, and halter tops and dresses. This summer and up until now, I'm still in the product development phase. This consists of working on the bra design with different designers, working with pattern makers to come up with a tech sheet and a spec pack, and also working with manufacturers. I'm working with one in Fall River and in contact with one in China. I'm also working on the adhesive aspect of it, and I've been working with the adhesive giant 3M as well as Flexcon in Massachusetts as well to create the perfect adhesive. I'm a dedicated and qualified founder. I studied business, entrepreneurship, and organizations right here at Brown, and I know that I'm equipped to solve the problem, specifically since I've lived this problem and I'm ready to solve it. And I also have an unbelievable team of mentors. The idea actually was conceived in Danny Warshay's class, The Entrepreneurial Process. Any students here should definitely take that. I also did an independent study with Jonas Clark and, of course, Jason Harry's B-Lab. I also have an unbelievable team of female fashion entrepreneurs as mentors. Julie Siegel, founder of Dear Kate, which is an underwear company. Katie Sands is a blogger for Honestly Kate and has a huge following and wants to market the Relia bra for free. And Hillary Lambert is the founder of American Sports Bra. I hope with their help that I could show women all over the world that Relia bra is a bra that they can stick with.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarun Machala, and this is my pitch for GoTef. What comes to mind when you think of Ethiopia? From my experience, when I tell people I'm from Ethiopia, they usually think of two things: famine and malnourished children, or freakishly good endurance athletes. Well, I would like to think that Ethiopia can be known for something else. Something that can erase the image and even future possibility of famine for Ethiopia. And that's teff. Teff is a grain that's been cultivated in my home country for over 4,000 years. And now it's taking the world by storm as the new superfood. Teff is highly nutritious, and 1 cup of teff provides you with 51% of your daily recommended protein intake, 35% calcium, 62% fiber, and 82% iron. Plus, it's gluten-free. Teff is one of nature's greatest gifts, and it tastes delicious. I would know. I grew up eating teff every single day. And not just me. Take it from 100 million of Ethiopia's population who do the same. And guess what else? Those Ethiopian runners that you see breaking world records, well, they're fueled by this grain. Unfortunately, the story of teff isn't always full of victories and world championships. Amidst this story, we find the struggle of 10 million smallholder farmers and lack of irrigation and market access. Those are the two main bottlenecks. Without irrigation, these farmers can only plant this grain once a year, thus barely producing enough to feed themselves. And GoTef can change this. We are the world's first impact trade teff company. And what we do is very simple. We source, sell, and reinvest. We source teff from Ethiopian farmers, package and sell to US consumers in different forms, and then reinvest in the farmers in the form of solar irrigation. This triples the yield for farmers and increases their income from $1,000 to $3,000 per hectare. And our solution is unlocking the production potential of our farmers so they can produce enough for their own demand and also take advantage of the international market. Now, let's talk about our market. We'll be launching in the US, targeting the same people who drove the quinoa rise. Quinoa has a market size of $500 million in America alone. And teff's market, currently valued at $100 million, has 15% global market growth rate. And we will be the ones to drive and capture that growth. Teff satisfies many different markets that are on the rise. We have the likes of gluten-free, vegan at $2 to $3 billion, and the larger U.S. health and food nutrition market valued at more than $22 billion. With this market opportunity in mind, GoTef will be selling both wholesale and retail teff. Wholesale will be targeting gluten-free bakeries, restaurants, and Ethiopian diaspora community. And for retail, GoTef will be selling teff grain and flour, in addition to our very own line of teff and consumer products, starting with our healthy teff chips as our first product of entry. We'll be targeting two major customer segments: endurance athletes and health-conscious consumers. From over 200 customer interviews we've already conducted, we have studied our market segments well. Our early adopters are endurance athletes because we can easily capture them through our brand ambassadors, the Ethiopian top athletes who testify that teff is the untold secret of their success. And with this proof point, we'll be using e-commerce, direct sales, and niche athletic stores to target this segment. The endurance athletes are only an avenue to get to our real market, the health-conscious consumers. And this market will be targeted through our channels of sale, such as Whole Foods, Amazon, and Thrive. Our team is ready to launch GoTef. With exceptional advisors from market-driven brands such as Kind Bar, Exo Bars, as well as farmers and government liaisons on the ground in Ethiopia, we are ready to execute this vision. We've already secured every step of our supply chain and also have about 200 pre-orders and have connected with lifestyle influencers, American athletes such as Molly Huddle, and cooking shows. And for our impact side, we just won a grant from UNDP for youth and sustainable development goals to jumpstart our investment in farmers. A future with GoTef is a future where no more famines will occur in Ethiopia. We will increase teff production so much so that food insecurity will be impossible. And this brings it home for me in particular, because I grew up watching my father on TV in charge of the national food aid distribution efforts during one of Ethiopia's worst famines. So I know the importance of moving Ethiopia away from aid to trade. Join us in this journey of superfood and super impact. Thank you.
I do want to say we had, I hope you agree with me, a host of really, really compelling, future-looking ventures, and I'd like to recognize them all again just real briefly. Thank you. We're going to wrap up the program now. Before we head to the reception, I want to invite my good friend and colleague, Danny Warsha. He's the executive director of the Jonathan M. Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship here at Brown. You've heard a lot about the center. Many of you know Danny, and we're so proud of our cohort in B-Lab, and we're proud to be part of the Nelson Center. Thanks, Danny.
Thank you, Jason. I realize I'm all that stands between you and a glass of wine, so I promise to be brief. For how many of you, this is my standard question, many of you know it, but I always love asking it. For how many of you is this your first Nelson Center for Entrepreneurship event that you're attending? Yeah, I love seeing so many new hands whenever we are in a new venue or even in our standard venues. And as Jason mentioned earlier, we have alumni and other supporters and participants live in our live stream feed all over the world. I heard from many of them today who were so excited that they could find out what's happening in the Nelson Center and see firsthand what our students are doing. I want to thank President Paxson. I want to thank Michael Kaplan. I want to thank Mayor Lorza for being here and for their support and contributions to what we do all year round, not just on this night. I also wanted to acknowledge that we have lots of students here tonight, as always, and this is a university, so that makes sense. We have lots of folks like we see here who are not students, people from the Brown community and among alumni, lots of supporters at large. We also have lots of supporters and students from other universities locally. We mentioned before Kevin and Scott from RISD. We have Dee Dee Chapman with a cohort from University of Rhode Island. We have folks from Johnson & Wales, from Rhode Island College, from Providence College. All of our events are open to the general public. So we see ourselves not only as a resource for Brown students, but also for the community at large. And I'm really thrilled that so many of you from the community have chosen to be with us this evening. I see many of increasingly familiar faces because we have lots of our events that attract many people who are not even affiliated with Brown. So thank you to all of you who are here from those universities. I also wanted to give you a sense of the ways in which we're quickly starting to collaborate with many other organizations locally here in Rhode Island. One is called Practico Innovation. It's led by Walter Callender, Don Stanford, Kip Bradford, who many of you know, and they are empowering entrepreneurs in what they call invisible communities. It's a really important part of our relationship with the community at large. That extends also to Arnell Millhouse and to his colleagues Cliff and Reese, who are part of two organizations that we closely collaborate with here in the city. One is called Intra-City Geeks. I know we have many of you from that organization here, and the other is called Career Devs. So thank you for your collaboration with the Nelson Center. And then third, Jason, you highlighted this before, we have a really wonderful relationship with Thorne Sparkman and the Slater Fund, and are doing a whole host of events that many of you have attended. In fact, over the summer, this was a surprise, but a pleasant one. On August 15th, in a really blisteringly hot, swelteringly sweaty evening, we had virtually no students around on campus, and so we invited this professor, Stephen Brand from Stanford, to speak. And we thought, well, maybe we would have a handful of community members. In fact, we first booked the Pederuti Lounge because I thought we'd have like 20 people there, and if it expanded to maybe 30 or 40, we would be able to accommodate them. We had 220 people show up that night. We had to move the venue 3 times, and that's a testament to how much excitement there is for what we're doing among all of you, community members who take a real interest in entrepreneurship at Brown, entrepreneurship in Providence, entrepreneurship in Rhode Island. We briefly mentioned before the Brown Venture Founders Program, which is one that has already awarded $50,000 to a past participant in B-Lab, and will be continuing to do that. Just this morning, we spoke about the next opportunity for us to award the next $50,000. So if those students who have pitched tonight are interested, there's a big opportunity to motivate you to stay in Rhode Island and to put down roots here, to hire people here, to create jobs here, and to grow your venture here. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my colleagues from the Nelson Center who put a ton of effort all through the summer during B-Lab's primary focus over the 8 weeks that it was conducted, and then also gearing up for the pitch night tonight. One is Samantha Noonan, who is our summer intern and has continued to work on B-Lab since then. Thank you, Samantha. Abby Rubin and Liz Malone put an enormous amount of effort into preparing teams, getting them ready for tonight, and into, believe it or not, all of the logistics associated with conducting an event like this. Jonas Clark, our associate director, is back in the green room, has been coaching teams even up until the last minute, and did a really good job preparing those teams. And of course, to our illustrious director of B-Lab, Jason Harry, who we couldn't live without, and is much more than just the director of B-Lab. You're really a partner, a collaborator, a member of our team in earnest throughout the whole year. So thank you for all you do. The last thing I'll say is all of our events are available on our website. That's entrepreneurship.brown.edu. That is literally, many of them are recorded and available to watch and to share with your friends and others. And then if you're ever curious about any of the events that are into the future, you can do 2 things. You can see our calendar of our events there, which is exploding. And also, I encourage all of you to sign up for our periodic email news update, which is available right on the homepage there. If you have any questions, if anything's confusing, if you'd like to contribute in any ways that you're not already, you can also email us at entrepreneurship@brown.edu. With that, I'll thank you all for being with us tonight. All of us, including the teams, will be milling about at the reception. I encourage you to introduce yourself to me if I don't already know you. Thank you very much for coming tonight.